You ever hear about a world-famous painter who was secretly a sculptor? Or, I don't know, a rock star who wrote classical symphonies that nobody ever heard? It happens way more than you'd think. An artist gets famous for one thing, but they've got this whole other hidden passion, a secret body of work. Well, today we're going to dive into one of those stories, a kind of literary mystery about a master novelist and the poems he left behind.
So, our story is all about a writer named Qi Deng Sheng. And in the world of Taiwanese literature, this guy is an absolute legend.
For decades, his name has been totally synonymous with these groundbreaking modernist novels. I mean, his fiction really pushed the boundaries. It played with reality and illusion, and it absolutely cemented his place in the Literary Hall of Fame. He was, without a doubt, a master storyteller.
But here's the thing. That wasn't the whole story. While the world was celebrating him as this incredible novelist, he was living a second, kind of secret artistic life. He was quietly and very privately writing poetry. And that right there leads us to the big question we're tackling today. Why on earth would the poetry of such a famous author be basically forgotten? And maybe more importantly, what secrets do those poems hold? To figure that out, we gotta go back in time, back to the 1960s. So when Qi Deng Sheng first started writing poetry, the literary scene in Taiwan was dominated by this one, very specific and really intense style. This was the era of Surrealism. A group called the Genesis Poetry Society was leading the charge, and they were creating work that just dove deep into the subconscious mind. They were exploring nihilism, dream logic, and using techniques like automatic writing, just writing whatever pops into your head without any conscious thought. The result was poetry that was intentionally difficult, super abstract, and wrapped in what critics called an atmosphere of obscurity. And here's a little taste of what was popular back then. This is a line from a poet of that era. I mean, just look at the contradictory images, like midnight noon, and that abstract phrase, death conducted into a tree of wedding. It was a total puzzle of words, and that was exactly the point. Yeah, if you're kind of scratching your head right now, you are not alone. This style wasn't supposed to be easy to understand. It was intellectual, it was complex, and it was designed to really challenge the reader. This was the world that Qi Deng Sheng, our budding poet, was stepping into. But Qi Deng Sheng, he didn't follow the trend at all. In fact, his poetry was basically the polar opposite of what everyone else was doing. His approach was completely different, and you don't have to take my word for it, he said it himself. He wasn't interested in those grand, abstract poems. No, his focus was on smaller, more personal feelings, and his language was simple, direct, almost conversational. Okay, let's look at one of his most famous short poems to see this in action. It starts with this really simple image of domestic life reflected in the water. You've got a boat, a stove, a sleeping mat, but then, bam, here comes the twist. The reflection of all those things, the whole life they represent, suddenly transforms into a school of fleeing fish. In that one simple, powerful metaphor, he captures this intense desire to escape. No obscure language, just a profound emotional truth. So you see these two completely different approaches, right? The mainstream was all about these intellectual puzzles, while Qi Deng Sheng was just using simple words to reveal these deep emotional truths. He was a total outlier, which is definitely one reason he was overlooked. But there's another, even more important reason. It turns out, to really understand his poetry, you need a key. And the wild part is that the key is hidden in plain sight, right in the preface to a self-published collection. So he published this small collection called the 5-Year Collection. It only had 24 poems, but what makes it so remarkable is its preface. Unlike most poets who kind of prefer to let their work speak for itself, Qi Deng Sheng just explicitly laid out the real-life story behind almost every single poem. And this is where the preface becomes the key, connecting the art directly to his life. The poem Castle isn't just about some building, it's about a heartbreaking end to a relationship in a poor mining town. Now Only Emptiness Is Left was written from the depths of despair when he was unemployed for a long time. Informant came from the anger of being cheated by a publisher. Night Watch from the relief of finally landing a job without having to pay a bribe. The preface is basically the Rosetta Stone for his poetry. And all of a sudden, you realize this isn't just a collection of poems.
It's an autobiography in verse. It's this raw, unfiltered record of a young artist's bitter journey, just full of struggle, poverty, and heartbreak. So after this really intense 5-year period, his poetry didn't stop, but it did start to change. In the 1970s, his style got a lot more experimental. It became almost like prose just broken into lines. He started writing much, much longer poems, some of them over 100 lines long. And his focus shifted too, moving away from that immediate raw pain of his personal struggles and towards these broader, more philosophical ideas about nature and life and death. So, let's circle back to our original question. Why does this small, overlooked body of work actually matter? So, what is his legacy? It kind of starts with this number, 58. In his entire life, Qi Deng Sheng only wrote 58 poems. I mean, in a world where poets publish these huge collections, that's a tiny number. But their importance was never about quantity. It was about their unique, almost revolutionary quality. His poems matter because they are a voice of dissent. In an age of grand, intellectual, and honestly often impersonal poetry, he offered something radically different, an authentic, honest, and deeply personal account of one person's life. It really challenges the whole idea that art needs to be complex to be profound. Ultimately, Qi Deng Sheng's forgotten poems aren't just poems. They're a diary, they're a confession, and a testament to the idea that the most powerful art often comes from the simplest, most direct expression of a life actually lived. He gave us the key to unlock them, and what we find inside is nothing less than the story of an artist's soul. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other quiet masterpieces are out there from artists we think we know, just hidden in the shadow of their more famous work, just waiting for us to find the key.